Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of GTM and the Tofu Bowl. My guest today is David Yockelson. He is a distinguished VP and fellow at Gartner, and he is a true thought leader when it comes to a lot of what is coming down the pike with AI and go-to-market. So excited to have you on.
Thanks, Elaine. Thanks for the props. Actually, it sounded pretty cool.
Actually, I'm just more curious, how did you end up getting into the analyst world in the first place? And in particular, how did you decide to focus on go-to-market?
It's a longer story than we all have time for, but I kind of backed into it in technologies that I was focused in the late 80s, early 90s, which back then was imaging and workflow, if you remember that stuff. I answered an ad in the Wall Street Journal. That's how we used to find jobs. And became an analyst in 1993 and then did that for a bunch of years, went back, worked for some large tech companies, small tech companies. I've always been in tech, bounced back to being analyst, bounced out. Now I'm here and this is the last stop. And why go to market? I've been a product marketer when I was a practitioner. I've done strategy and a bunch of other stuff, but mostly I've been on the marketing side. And as marketing itself has evolved to become, I don't know how is the best way to say it, more closely attached to or associated with or part of go-to-market. It's a natural way to think of things. And I promise to shut up in a second. The last thing I'll say is there continues to be this desperate need for alignment between sales and marketing and success and whatever else. And that's in part what go-to-market is about, is making those things work together to ensure that we're telling the best stories to our customers and delivering the right products and all of those things.
Nice. That's awesome. We're definitely going to touch on, actually, I want to touch on the alignment first. So this has been a very big topic of conversation for us recently. And one of the things, that we do with our product is a lot around ABM, so account-based marketing. And I kind of hate that term and want that term to evolve just because it has a bit of a bad rap in the sense people think that broad segmentation is ABM. And I hear people talking about more account-based go-to-market. And to me, what that also signals is we're having better alignment among the teams. Are you seeing AI play a role in this? Is that something where it can actually be a facilitator?
Yeah, I sure hope so. And you're touching on facets of ABM that are interesting, which is, you should be using ABM to, I'll say, close the aperture a little bit, or do two things at once: is have a focus on those accounts that are strategic to you and that matter, but also blanket them appropriately with the right information for all the right influencers and personas and so on that make buying decisions and all of that. So that's what ABM should be doing. Where can AI help with that? I think, again, both parts of that puzzle. So one is, where should I hunt? Where should I look? And it really goes back to doing better at creating an ICP. Every company should be doing that well. Many companies do not. Either they don't create one that they trust or they don't adhere to it or whatever. AI should help me with a level of precision for the ICP, or point out that I have more than one cohort where I have an outsized chance to win. That's how I think of an ICP. So it should allow me to focus better on the accounts that matter. And then within the accounts, it should allow me to be much more precise and much more what I'll call persona-wized in terms of the personas that matter in terms of making a buying decision, and getting them the right stuff, whether it's a demo, whether it's information, whether it's a case study, whatever that might be.
I love that framing. And I do think that historically, it always felt to me like marketing and sales should be jointly aligned in the account selection among the ICP, but they were operating on completely different data sets and had different versions of what ICP meant. And now I'm seeing that gap close a bit, which I think is going to be helpful, and truly taking a data-driven approach to account selection, which is the start of any kind of campaign.
I sure hope so. This is it's a little reminiscent of when everybody's talking about RevOps 3 years ago, and right idea, not necessarily the right execution, because everybody wasn't going to mash all the functions together. But to your point, making sure that the underlying data structure, map, estate, whatever you want to call that, making sure that that's aligned and reachable is critically important. And I have a lot more hope that AI is going to help with that, if not fix it, than I will the actual functions themselves collaborating effectively.
Yeah, I think humans are messy. AI can be less messy. And that kind of leads me to you've written a lot about agents and agentic workflows and things like that. And, I think the panacea for marketing teams in general is right message to the right person at the right time on the right channel. And I think that can take all kinds of permutations. But in terms of, I guess, maybe it's different agents doing each of the pieces, you have things talking to each other in concert. Where are we now in terms of agentic workflows? And maybe even if you can start defining what is an agent to you, like what does it actually mean?
Yeah, and I guess my disclaimer will be whatever I tell you now is probably going to be different 15 minutes from now. So, the dog ears are much shorter here in the AI age. But so I kind of separate the world into two parts. So on the one side, we've got working with Gen AI through prompting or an assistant. So basically, a way for me to have a conversation with a thing, an entity, an LLM, basically, and I'm going to ask it a question. It's going to give me an output. It's going to give me an answer. And co-pilots do, different forms of that, but they're all conversational. The difference when you move over to the notion of an agent is that an agent is going to do its work either semi-autonomously or autonomously. So you're going to give it a set of goals and a set of guardrails and some amount of permission to go do things on your behalf. Some of those things might be automated versions of what you did conversationally, but some of them may not be. You may tell the agents, hey, go figure this out and tell me the best way to do something. The key thing is also that the assistance and the prompting, it's transactional, whereas the agent side of it is much more about process. And the last thing I'll say right now is if you're not thinking about where to apply this technology in points where you're suffering in your marketing, in your go-to-market processes, then you're not doing it right. You've got to look for those areas where you can not just automate, but transform and get a better outcome through the use of this technology.
On that last point, what I see most common is people might know where their pain points are, but they can't yet put this mental cap on of where can I actually deploy some kind of agentic workflow or some kind of either tool that is agent based. How would you recommend marketing leaders or practitioners like ICs to think that level of depth?
Yeah, again, being very old, I go back and remember the late 90s, mid 90s business process reengineering. So we all talked about the as is model and the to be model, and we mapped out the as is and we said, here's what we want it to look like. And then we went and deployed technology to go automate that. This is a similar thing, except what you do is you skip the as is. And so what I would counsel people to do is look in your functions and look at the tasks and the processes that you're trying to achieve. So if I want to create campaigns that focus on sending information about our new product to our highest value customers, there's a whole bunch of things going on in that statement. And some of that could be done agentically or with agents, but you've got to think about, well, what is the outcome I want from that? I want to auto magically pick out my highest value customers. I want this to happen when I have new releases of a product, and I want certain information to go with that. And so looking at what outcome I want, then you can work backwards and say, well, what's the best way to do that? Is it an agent? And then what sort of goals and stuff do I have to delineate for that? But yeah, it's process first, technology second.
I'm going to say something that might be controversial in terms of how you think about this. My gut take right now, and this is to your point, 15 minutes, it's going to change. Right now, I don't think marketers are ready for agents. And I'll tell you why. I find that marketing as a discipline is extremely subjective, and people are very precious and conscientious about anything that is going to go out to a prospect or a customer, and they want to see it. And if there is no human in the loop where they can actually see it and approve it, and by approval, it could literally just be looking over it and letting the automation run. They want to have eyes on it. I don't think marketers are ready for it yet. So I guess, what's your take?
Yeah, I don't think that's controversial at all. I think that's very accurate. And so, when we do that think process first, I think then what you do is you make a decision of what can I automate, what can I augment with a human, or what human can I augment with tech, and then what needs to be human. Absolutely, you've got to think through what's not just possible, but what's going to work at the moment. And we all know, this technology still hallucinates. Salesforce, and you wake up, all sorts of announcements about marketing automation and agent force and agents and marketing automation came out the next day and said, guess what? Our stuff is wrong 35% of the time. Awesome. So there's that part of it. The other, I guess one last thing I'll say about this is, in spite of the fervor around agents, and we're having conversations about agents and automation, anecdotally, it appears to me that well over 75%, probably closer to 90% of implementations right now are not agents. Even if people say they're agents, they're not agents. I've built something, I've coded something cool in front of an LLM, or I'm using RAG to help figure out to teach it the right way, but it's more conversational.
I could not agree more. That is the one thing that I keep getting frustrated when people are talking about all the agents, and I'm like, that is not an agent. And I think my definition is very similar to yours. I think I keep describing to people, there's going to be 3 different phases of AI. And right now we're still in phase 1, which is this trust building phase. Marketer, and this is for people in general, most people don't yet trust AI because it hallucinates, because they've been burned, because they haven't built that level of understanding and trust. Phase 2 is going to be trust but verify. So I still want to be in the loop. I want you to do stuff, but I want to go and hit the yes or no button. And phase 3 is going to be true agentic workflows, where I'm giving you permission to go, and I'm the strategist saying, here's our goal. You go figure out how to hit that goal and figure out the best path. But I don't know, what's your timeline on that?
Yeah, it's so hard to say, because, and this is not me being a cagey analyst, it's just, it's all over the map. So there are companies that are putting in the effort and being careful and have built the trust through working and experience, who are doing really neat stuff. And there is some agentic technology or implementation out there. But for the masses, and I think that's more what we're talking about here, I would agree that I think and we actually have a survey in the field right now to try to take the temperature of, do people really understand what this is about, and do they really want to automate or use agents to do these things? I think most people in organizations don't know what they don't know yet. Most of the conversations I have with senior marketing leaders go the same way, which is we're trying a bunch of AI things. We're creating content, we're generating images. It's kind of neat. What else should I be doing? So I think there's a lot of many companies are at the point of, and something I agree with, would just try things. If you're not experimenting, you're losing. I don't think there's any question about that. But to your point, I think you're spot on. I think you try it out, you see what you can trust, you see what works, and then at the same time, I think you look at where are there areas in your go-to-market process that are just painful, that take weeks, that could take days, and then I think you start applying judiciously.
What are some of the coolest things you've seen people actually deploy?
Probably one of the cooler ones is, and I'm no problem saying their name because they were a case study that we highlighted, is Lenovo. I don't know if you think of Lenovo when you think of an AI, but they created a pretty neat agent-based thing called AI Studio that basically, in a much faster time than it took them normally, assembles packages of content for specific language, geography, account, channel, whatever variables you want. It'll sometimes create a little bit, but assemble this packet of stuff and get it to the right place. Now, this is, again, it's something that would take weeks to accomplish that now takes, hours. So I think that's pretty cool. I think there is an array of technology focused on, was another favorite term of everyone, the signals. So, basically getting to a level of precision about what account should I take a specific action with right now based on what people in that account are doing. I think there's a lot of neat technology around that I think folks are just starting to figure out. So yeah, those are some things.
Yeah, I like those. So it's funny, I really hated the concept of intent data. I thought intent was so black box. It was mostly self-referential. I can give you so many examples of why it's not useful. It's not specific, right? So specificity implies utility. And I think signals I love signals. And I like the term too. But to me, signals are specific and actionable. And with actionability comes the ability to run very specific and prescribed plays. And I think you start with more automation with these plays, but you get to the agentic flow where you're like, okay, X person took X action, and we have historical data in our CRM on what have they done before.
100%.
And we have historical data on what do people that look like them respond to. Now we feed all that data to an agent and say, go forth and prosper. What is the next best step for this person? And that's the world that I'm really excited to see. And then you start deploying these different agents depending on the signal.
Yep. Yeah. And now I have a cacophony of agents that are doing work for me that are orchestrated hopefully somehow by some super agent in the sky. But I'm doing all those things. And one of them is also generating me the appropriate email that today, unfortunately, still looks like spam because people are not doing the precision work before they go and light on the accounts. But yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. And this is a conversation we had online about less with less. I think that's the power of AI, is to get us to a point where we're not going to have this universe of junk just because we have to generate MQL numbers. We're going to go after those accounts where, based on learning and based on history, we know, or it's inferred, that we're likely to win, and we're going to pinpoint them very specifically. So less effort, more result, we hope.
You mean you don't love getting the emails in your inbox every single day saying, hi, David, I saw you comment on this post. I saw something totally irrelevant. Here, let me tell you about it.
I do. And sometimes I actually reply back and say, guess what job I have? And here's why this isn't the best way to go about this.
I've started a new ritual where on Fridays I try to carve out 30 minutes where I blind react to cold emails, but then I also send people, I'll usually pick like 3 to 5, and I send them feedback on like, here's how to make this better. Like, just again, not trying to throw you under the bus, just this could be better.
100%. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, we don't have lives, but yeah, that's fun for us.
Question for you on the orchestration piece. So this is also something that I'm thinking a lot about. So we move into this world where we're leveraging signals to give us the right data. We have agents that are deployed to do specific things. We have some humans who are helping with strategy and some of the creative work. But do you think that we are going to have kind of this master orchestrator agent, or do you still see that as the role the human plays, and the human has to think through how to manage a team that is incorporating humans and agents?
It's both. So I think, and there's some stuff that we've published on this recently in demand gen specifically, but I think, the strategic jobs remain human, thinking about, and some of that is what sort of labor force does which things, where labor force is people or it's agents or it's whatever it is. So, what's best suited to do which tasks in the things that we're talking about. But I do also think that some of those things will be handed over to an orchestrator that will put agents to work and manage that. So yeah, I absolutely think both of those things happen.
What do you think most people get wrong when they're thinking about the future of, sorry, this light keeps going off, the future of agents and AI in the marketing sphere? Where do you think most people are just wrong?
I don't know if there's a lot. I mean, aside from there not being a really broad or enough of a broad understanding of what's an agent and what's not, and that kind of thing. I think the wrong comes in not aiming for the important stuff. So, our numbers tell us, I don't think this is the answer that you were looking for, but, or I don't know if it's surprising or not. So our numbers tell us that most organizations are focusing their efforts on the low-hanging fruit. Like I said, it's generating content, it's generating images, removing agency spend, that kind of thing. And it's good and it's valid, but it's not the home run. And I think many organizations are purposefully not going after the execution stuff or the process stuff because it's harder. And I think that part of the reason for that isn't so much they don't get the technology, it's that they don't know enough about their processes. So I think that there's a skill set that's needed, and maybe it's in marketing ops. I don't know where. As I have product marketers that can do this, but I think getting an understanding again for where those pain points are in all of the things that you have to do. I'm reviewing today a 300+ page product launch plan, and you can bet there's a ton of stuff in there that should be automated and managed and all that kind of thing. So that's like a perfect candidate to look at. Where can I take pain out of this process? Where can I make things work better? And what could I optimize or transform as part of that? So I don't want to repave the cow path. I want to do things better and differently. And that's where I think, thinking of the outcome I want and letting the technology get me there is what people need to start thinking about. So it's not that they're doing it wrong. It's just they're not thinking the right way yet.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think also thinking through the lens of what is repeatable. I find a lot of people get caught up in it will take me 4 hours to figure out how to do something well now that will save me 400 hours in the future. But people aren't willing to put in the 4 hours up front. And if it doesn't take them 4 minutes, they abandon ship. And I find that that's something that got to just grit through it. It's like there is something to be said about putting in the time up front. The single biggest thing I've seen work for people, and I'm curious if you're seeing something similar and also how you'd go about this, is when teams is mandatory, a day-long or half-day-long hackathon, where you have to kind of present what you've done, and it's totally fine if it fails, but you have to carve out the time and the space and force people to get their hands dirty with some of these tools, even if it goes nowhere.
100%. Yeah, and I've actually seen a couple of those in the last week, so I absolutely concur, to the point where, I have folks that are doing this by edict or by fiat, and we've all seen and read the emails from Shopify and other companies. Zapier put out this really neat maturity model and so on. So there are enough companies that are saying, look, this is the way we're going to act. We're going to be AI first, or whatever we want to call it. And yeah, I think when you and in a lot of cases, you're not having to force people to do it. There are enough folks that get that there's huge value in this technology and they're looking for ways to deploy it. But not every organization works that way. Not every culture works that way. There are lots that are risk averse and so on. So I agree. And that's why our counsel is try things. See what it can do, see what you can stomach, and then go from there.
Any upcoming research that you're working on that you're excited about, or themes that you're excited to write more about?
Shockingly, a lot about agents and AI. Go figure. There's a piece that we just, all our stuff's behind a paywall, unfortunately, so I can only brag about it. But there's a piece that we just published on, if you're in marketing and sales and you have a product that is agentic or is with AI agents, is how do you market and sell it? One of the things that is always a problem in tech is the focus on feature and function and speed and feed, and not the value that customers get from the thing. And there's every sales methodology in the world that tries to do it the right way, and yet they're poorly adopted and people don't adhere to it. Well, guess what? Agents are all about process, and agents are all about outcome. And if you don't understand the outcome that your customers want to achieve, you will not be successful. I don't care what agent tech you have. So anyway, so it's a lot of how do you go about doing that the right way? That's something I'm excited having published.
I'm excited to read about that too. And that kind of flows into, I know you've written a bunch about outcomes-based pricing and things like that. So that also ties into, if you're a vendor trying to market and sell some of these agentic-based products, like how do you think about how you price and package it? Because that will look wildly different in the future. So.
And to some extent in the present.
This is true too. Early days, early days. I think I have some specific takes on that, but this has been so fun. Anybody out there, if you're not following David on LinkedIn, definitely follow him there. Obviously, Gartner stuff is behind a paywall, but you have amazing content there. So thanks for the time, and really excited to just continue to see what happens in the future.
Elaine, thanks so much. This was awesome. Happy to be a part of it. And I guess everybody who's watching this is your fan anyway, but tell your friends. Elaine's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.